Okay, for these notes, it's very similar to page 7. However, for page 8, we're going to actually explain situations. So it says, I can calculate the average rate of change, which, remember, rate of change for right now, we're talking about slope of a function over a specified interval, and interpret what it means in a situation. So we're going to calculate our m. We're going to do that by using our slope formula. Now, once we do that, so that's what we've been practicing for the last couple of days. Now we're going to attach the unit to it. So since we're talking about real life problems, the real life problems are going to have units, whether it's centimeters, days, years, inches, feet. The unit's going to change for each problem. So attach the units to our slope. I'm just going to write it shorthand, delta y over delta x. Remember, delta y over delta x just means this formula right here. They're the exact same thing, it's just shorthand. And then you're going to write a sentence using the units. All right. Now, in the first problem, we're talking about the total length knit. So if somebody in your family is, knitting a sweater or a hat, they go at a specific rate. So the first thing you do, just like page 7, is find the integers, the ordered pairs that fall right on the corners. And notice that there's only 3 ordered pairs. One thing I want to point out, they're equally spaced. If your ordered pairs are never ordered, if they're not equally spaced, that means you plotted incorrectly. That means it wouldn't be linear. So I have 3 ordered pairs. Just pick 2. Doesn't matter which 2. This was a very popular one in class, and so is this one. So I'll just choose those. So it's x comma y, 1 comma 3, and then our second ordered pair is 3 comma 6. So instead of writing the formula out, I'm just going to write it shorthand, the change of y over the change of x. So then my 6 minus 3, and then 3 minus 1. 6 minus 3 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. So notice my y's are in the numerator. Our second step is to find the unit. So we want to look on the y-axis. And then what we're going to do this exact same thing, but for our x's. So our x's are in the denominator. We're going to talk about nights. So just put those units in. So we're going to talk about centimeters. And then we're going to talk about nights. So our third step is to just write a sentence. So you can say she or he. She knits 3 centimeters every 2 nights. The only thing that I'm looking for are that you're talking about the 2 nights, that you're talking about our numerator, our 3 centimeters. Sorry. Talking about our 3 centimeters, and that it's a complete sentence. Capital letter in the beginning, punctuation at the end. Now for our second one, notice it's slightly different. We're talking about bigger numbers. Not all the numbers are there on the scale. It's still increasing. But you may have to, if you need to, write what's missing. So we're really counting by 500s. So filling that in could help you in the long run. Some students just find it to be too busy. And then our x-axis is actually counting by ones. Then we find our ordered pairs just like we did before. There's only 3. They're equally spaced. There's actually 1 here. Pick 2 ordered pairs. The popular ones today were those 2. You could pick the endpoints. You can pick any 2. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you get the ordered pair right, which is 3, 1,000. And then 6, 2,000. And then we're just going to do delta y over delta x, which is 2,000 minus 1,000, all over 6 minus 3. So remember, this is my y2 minus my y1. That's why it's right here. And this is my x2 minus my x1. That's why those 2 numbers are there. So 2,000 minus 1,000 is 1,000. 6 minus 3 is 3. That doesn't simplify anymore. So label your y values with our unit and label our x value with our unit. So we're talking about sales for our y, and we're talking about days for our x's. Now, one thing that we talked about in class, a lot of students said 1,000 books were sold. You want to make sure you read the title of your graph. We're talking about the book sales, how much money they earned. So you can say every 3 days, they made $1,000 in book sales. As long as we are talking about the 3 days being represented, the $1,000 being represented, and capital letter and punctuation at the end, that will be fine with me. Now the last graph is slightly different. Some students noticed that it was a negative slope. It was going downward, which is fine. Some students noticed that the bottom axis were letters, not numbers. But if you look, we're talking about days. We're talking about months. And those are the letters of the month. So January is our first month, February, second, so on and so forth. So there's actually numbers there. They just didn't write it. And then if you look at our y-axis, we're actually counting by 100. So if you want, fill it in. I'm just going to highlight the bank balance because we're talking about money. So the next step is to find all the ordered pairs that cross at the corner. Notice how they're equally spaced, so I know I'm doing it correctly. Does not matter which ordered pair you pick. So I'm just going to pick this point and that point. There's no reason that I picked those 2 points. Doesn't matter. So 2, 700. And then 4, 600. So delta y over delta x. So then it's 600 minus 700, 4 minus 2. So 600 minus 700 is negative 100 over 2. which simplifies as negative 50 over 1. Now, a few things about the negative slope. That negative doesn't mean you have negative $50 every month. But think about your bank balance. What's happening to it when it's a negative 50? Are you gaining money or are you losing money? Are you depositing money or are you withdrawing? So withdrawing money is taking out or spending money. So that negative sign right there actually means something. It means you're taking away the money. So our labeling our units, we're talking about money, and then we're talking about months. So you can say the bank balance or the balance is decreasing $50 every month. Now notice this time the negative 50, it doesn't say negative 50, we're using the word decreasing 50. So if you want, you can even color code the word decreasing is the negative sign. And then notice that I didn't write 1 month, I wrote every month because that means the same thing.